Mr. Rashid, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. Good day to all. My name is Rashid Rishi AlHeddi from Seamaster Maritime in the UAE. I am today going to speak on overcoming challenges during a pandemic, the ship agent's perspective. The role which agents can play in ensuring smooth handling and turnaround of crew and vessels during a pandemic. The operational challenges, the geographical challenges. I'm then going to talk of a very recent case of a mine-damaged vessel, tanker, loaded, which we handled at Fujairah for an STS, and then give you a small introduction to Seamaster Maritime. The operational challenges. Essentially, the port agent is the extension of the vessel's owner's office in the port of call. The owners trust an agent with their vessel, cargo, and crew, and there is a large expectation from owners that the agency will look after all issues as if they themselves are taking care of it. From the time of notice of arrival and the agency appointment is confirmed to the time the vessel lifts anchor and safely departs the port, with all operations successfully completed, the agent acts as disponent owners with the ultimate responsibility. The local restrictions, movements, and lockdown and maintaining 24/7 operations. March 2020 brought on unprecedented times with nationwide lockdowns, procedures which saw an alarming reduction of national movement by land, sea, and air. In March 2020, the government of the UAE suspended all visas which were issued prior to the 17th of March. On arrival, visas for non-restrictive nationalities were suspended from then. And during the suspension, visa service changes were only possible for emergency cases. A local curfew system meant people could not leave home during certain hours and only could via permits for essential movements. Offices, retail establishments, hotels, restaurants closed temporarily and some indefinitely. In order to continue to operate, the agencies had to abide by local rules and regulations and yet be able to tend to the vessel needs, because the seaports were not closed, though the airports were highly restricted. Freight forwarding continued for essential spares and stores for vessels. However, we had to plan it in a very consolidated manner. Work from home for staff was something new. Protecting essential workers that must continue to move to ensure vessels are looked after to the best of our ability. Launch trips offshore to vessels at anchorage went down severely, and demand only increased with the opening of visas sometime in July. The safe handling of crew in and out of airports. Crew change numbers for the first few months from March 2020 were close to non-existence. There was a great challenge to everyone: ship owners, ship managers, crewing agents, vessel owners, and ship agents. What to do with the crew who had finished their contracts on board and had to go home, or crew who had to join and start off a new job. The borders were closed, airports were closed, and crew were not allowed ashore. Crew changes only was possible for emergency cases through the involvement of embassies and consulates where there were deaths in the family or someone was critically ill, and we had to take pre-approvals from various government authorities. When travel came back online, we had a gradual increase, with principals then taking the opportunity to go ahead with lots of crew changes. And Fujairah was a main hub, and so was Dubai. Our experience of handling crew changes came to the fore. We have an experienced staff of 70. We have 22 vehicles. for crew changes, and from handling less than 50 crew changes during the March to June period, we went up to 267 in July, and then it was in numbers of 600 for the month of August, September, and October onwards. It was just a deluge. Safety and security of the crew was upmost in our mind, ensuring proper PPE and social distancing and hygienic practices were being followed. Initially, the crew PCR test from their home countries were allowed by immigration authorities up to 96 hours before arrival. Then it changed to 72 hours before arrival. And then they started checking passengers and random bases on arrival at Dubai airport, where they had to wait 24 to 48 hours for their results to come through. And they were isolated in hotels meant for this occasion. Some ports like Abu Dhabi were not accepting PCR tests because it was on an SMS basis, the results, and we had to get them retested at a lab and have a paper result of negative. Till today, Abu Dhabi restricts, and there's a 14-day quarantine for people coming at the airport. Our Fujairah team used to test the on-signers in Fujairah, as the results from Dubai sometimes took 48 hours. Social distancing, hygiene, and sanitation. Staff were working from home for most parts. There was severe reduction in office, making sure the team are able to conduct work safely. And there was social distancing in the office. The office was sanitized regularly. There was masks to be worn. There was gloves to be worn. And regular cleaning took multiple times in a day. There was use of disposable cutlery and drinkware, and proper disposal of the PPE, used masks and used gloves had to be taken. Protecting your team while keeping in principal's interest. The complete set of COVID-19 PPE was worn at all times to avoid transmission of disease. Hand sanitizers were made available by our cars to receiving crew to be applied before and after the transport jobs. Safe distancing in the vehicle meant that a saloon car with 5 seats could only take 2 plus the driver, and a car with 7 seats could take 3 with the driver, and a car for 15 passengers could take 7 with the driver. Further, we used to keep the van's rear windows open so that there was circulation of air. The air conditioner system was turned off at all times, and fresh air mode was being used. This was very, very important for everyone's safety. The geographical challenges. Seaports were not closed. However, severe restrictions were in place for the crew. The PCR test had to be taken for all the crews which came in on board before any services were to be rendered, and same to our boarding executives who would go out. Quarantine was mandatory for crew coming from high-risk areas. Airports severely restricted passengers from March to July. Cargo flights still came in, and there were curfew and lockdowns, and only certain hours and timings had to be adhered to. Use of our warehouses to consolidate and deliver the cargoes to the vessel. Job counts went down of spares handling from before the crisis of upwards of 300 to 400 to less than 50. And then it started picking up, and now we are up to more than 300 a month. Country restrictions were also there for crew, superintendents, and representatives flying out. Visas had stopped, as I said earlier, in March. Local rules and regulations shifted week by week as authorities responded to different fast-changing scenarios. The forward planning for all operations was very, very important. Between the owners, the vessel, the crew managers, the agency, the port authorities, immigrations, customs, security. The agent bears an enormous responsibility for the vessel, especially in the UAE as law holds them responsible for the vessel, crew, and cargo, and as agents only does not apply in this area. We then handled a vessel called the MT Syra, which was damaged by a sea mine, floating mine, whilst it was loading in the Republic of Yemen at an SPM. The vessel then came to off Fujairah, and we approached the harbour master to get permission for the vessel to come into port, to do an STS, and for the safety of the vessel and the crew and the cargo. Apparently and obviously, the harbour master, Captain Tamo Masood, was very concerned of the environmental impact of any oil spill. He was also concerned of the life and safety of the crew and cargo. So we then set in place various ways in which this operation could be done and permissions to be obtained. We had to plan and execute every activity with extra care and supervision. We had several discussions with the harbour master at the port of Fujairah and with the owners, and via telephonic conversation to paint a clear picture of how the vessel will be handled by the port, marine, oil spill control responses, and environmental safety team. Finally, a plan was formalized and put in place by the port authorities in accordance with diving service provider, LR principal surveyor, oil spill control response. The harbour master had highlighted serious hazards due to the possibility of cargo spills in the territorial waters of UAE or in the port of Fujairah customary anchorages. We had to inform owners to loop in a very experienced STS operator. So Fender Care was appointed for the STS. One of their vessels was discharging at Ruwais, the Hydra. So she came alongside into Fujairah. The vessel Syra was brought into the port under escort of a tug. Immediately, booms, sea booms, ocean booms were put around the vessel. We had interested parties which were there to go on board, which was the class principal surveyor, the diving company, and the pumps. Where the damage was underwater, those two tanks were emptied and the cargo transferred to other tanks. A damage stability critical assignment was made by DNG, GL, Fender Care, and their STS gears and test certificate validities were checked by the ports. The FRCL, oil spill control service contractor, the owner's hull and machinery insurer, War Risk, and their local correspondents, Gulf Agency. The cargo interested party, PNI local correspondent, senior legal consultants from Holman, Fenwick, Willen, the immigration manager, the port safety and tariff supervisor, the port security officer, the United Arab Coast Guards, the United States Coast Guard boarding officials who were there at Yemen, visited the vessels. We had to keep updating all interesting parties of this, and eventually they agreed that we could go ahead and do the STS. The STS was done successfully to the Hydra. The Hydra sailed out from Fujairah, and then the Syra just sailed out yesterday from Fujairah. It was a very proud moment for us that the FTA, the port of Fujairah officials, Captain Tamo Masood especially, and from our office, my son Rami, myself, and Captain Kaushik with Pradeep, we formed a team to handle the vessel, and it sailed successfully from the port. Everything went very well, and there was a huge sigh of relief that it was a job well done. This was my presentation. The next one after this, I speak to you of the company. Seamaster Maritime was established in the year 2000. It's a family owned and run from 6 locations. We do ship agency, logistics, ship-to-ship logistics, chartering, broking, warehousing. We own 5 cruise supply vessels. We have 70 plus employees, over 1,200 vessel calls per year. We are ISO 9001:2015 and TRACE certified. And this year, we are also a finalist for the Ship Agency of the Year award with Maritime Standard. Thank you very much. I'm now ready for any questions which you may have.
What we have a big thanks for you for our presentation, and what else we have is questions.
Yeah, so thank you once again very much for your patience. And the first question would be, post-COVID, will your operations still remain the same, or will there be some kind of changes in them?
Definitely, COVID-19 has taught us a new way of doing business. It's an exception. We found ways where certain staff did not come to office, and the time of 8 to 5 working was forever challenged and changed. And there was there was definitely a change in the way in which COVID-19 has taught us, and future also will be changes. Also, it's taught us to be more safe and more careful of moving around.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay, thank you very much. And you have mentioned that in United Arab Emirates, the law holds the agent almost fully responsible for the vessel as the owner. What are the other countries that have similarly strict laws? Are there any?
Most of the Arabic Gulf countries don't look at as agents, and they have a process called a sponsorship. So when you are bringing in a vessel, you're effectively sponsoring the vessel into that country, into that area. Hence, as you are the local representative of the owner, you are held equally responsible by the local authorities, and you are the soft target. You are there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Then, how does Seamaster Maritime organize crew changes during a pandemic?
Crew changes, as I've gone through my presentation, I've said that we take care of the crew. All our staff wear PPE. We have PPE for the crew. There are hand sanitizers in all our vehicles. Our vehicles are sanitized after every movement. A small saloon only takes 2 crew. A larger car with 7-seater will take only 3 crew. A 15-seater bus would take 7 crew. They are kept a meter apart. They're all wearing masks. They're all having sanitizers. The end of the bus windows are kept open. The air conditioner is switched on to fresh air mode, not recirculation mode. And after every crew movement, the vehicle is desalinized.
Okay, so thank you very much. It's glad to, we're happy to know that you're keeping your employees and all your crews safe. And do we have some more time for questions, or is it over?
I think it's over. Actually, we still some time from Mr. Rashid, and but we actually hold on until the very questions that we had for the Seamaster Maritime. So what else left? Actually, it's my thanks for the interesting and very clear presentation and your perspective on basically current situation in the maritime. And once again, I would like to express thanks for the good presentation, and all the rest of questions that we will receive, in case we will receive, we will be sending to you, and also your contact details will go directly to potential buyers, so they could actually contact you for further.
Thank you very much. Thank
you. Thank you, Mr. Rashid. Sincerely, thanks for the presentation, and we wish you have a great day ahead.
And we hope you stay with us as well.
Certainly.